We've got a jam-packed show today, but I just thought everyone would enjoy a nice laugh because the New Orleans Saints fired Dennis Allen today, which is honestly a good move for them. Allen's a loser of a coach. He's never won much, but it's still funny that it's all coming crashing down in New Orleans, and they're going to be bad for a long time. So if you are ready to watch the Saints suck, although I will say playing them with their interim head coach this week is not great timing because I'm a big believer of the interim head coach boost, but the Falcons should be able to take care of business against a Saints team that just lost to the Carolina Panthers. I want to open the show up by talking about the Drake London injury update we got today from Ian Rapoport, who believes he suffered a hip pointer injury. I am no doctor, and every single year I feel like as a football community, we all learn about a new injury, and for me, this is the new injury I am learning about. Now, when I searched hip pointer injury recovery timeline, it said 1 to 3 weeks, so that was pretty reaffirming to see. But looking at the Falcons' 2024 schedule, they probably won't have London for Week 10 at New Orleans, and they might not have him Week 11 at Denver. If I were the Falcons and you were in between that 2 to 3 week range for London, might not be the worst idea to just shut him down for the next 2 weeks because you have the bye after that, and then you could get him back Week 13 against the Chargers, and at that point you'd have a whole month since his injury against the Cowboys to get healthy. So hopefully we can get him back on the sooner side. Hopefully he does not have to go to short-term IR, but I think overall it was pretty reassuring news that London did not suffer a major injury, and he's been awesome so far this year. I mean, he's gotten better and better throughout his young career, but this year especially, look at the jump in weeks 1 through 9 of years 1 and 2 compared to year 3. 50 grabs, 552 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So if London does miss some time, Darnell Mooney will surely be in for a larger role, but he's done a phenomenal job so far this year being his right-hand man. Ray McCloud would definitely attract more attention. Kadarius Hodge, remember when he filled in for one snap in the overtime game against the Buccaneers and took it all the way to the house? So I'm pretty confident in Hodge stepping into a larger role. Maybe we get a little bit of the rookie Casey Washington out of Illinois as well. Also, another name to watch for to fill in a little bit if London misses a couple of weeks. What about Kyle Pitts? He had a really good stretch going into Week 9 against the Cowboys. He was very quiet against Dallas, but he still has 430 yards and 3 touchdowns halfway through the season. I mean, you could just multiply those numbers, and if I told you back in August Kyle Pitts finishes with nearly 900 yards and 6 touchdowns, you're probably pretty happy with that season from Pitts. So overall, I'm not too discouraged by this London injury. I don't think you should be either, as long as it is what Ian Rapoport believes it is, which is a hip pointer injury. But I still want to see London back on the field ASAP Rocky. So drop a number 5 down below in the comments section. You know these athletes are name searching right now, so let's show the guys some love. I want to see 500 fives and 500 likes too, so we can get Drake London back on the field as soon as possible. Now I want to switch gears and talk about some of the trade rumors out there, and maybe a Micah Parsons trade because the Dallas Cowboys could be imploding. So before we look at any trade targets, I always love to set a little bit of a foundation down, which is what currency do the Falcons have to work with? How much draft picks, right? They have 5 picks. They have a first, a second, a fourth. Their third went to the Patriots for Matthew Judon. Their 5th was confiscated for allegedly tampering with Kirk Cousins and Charlie Werner and Darnell Mooney. And they have 2 7th-round draft picks. So not a lot, because you kind of have a lot at the top, and you're not going to part ways with any of these picks most likely. And then you have a lot at the bottom, and you're not going to get much for these picks right here. So the really only good value asset you have is a 4th-round draft pick. And that could get you a good player, but if you trade that 4th, man, you are not doing a whole lot in rounds 3 through 6 in April. So one name that could maybe surface as a trade candidate is Micah Parsons. We've talked about him before on the show, but mostly about a future trade beyond this year. However, after the Falcons officially ended the Cowboys season in my eyes, Dak Prescott got some bad injury news, and that is his hamstring injury, which knocked him out in the second half, is worse than initially feared. He's probably going to miss 3 to 4 weeks at minimum. And if the Cowboys accept a failure of this year, now that Prescott is gone for the next month or so, maybe they decide to pick up the phone on a Micah Parsons trade. Maybe they decide, okay, this was kind of a last all-in season, and it's not going to plan, and we don't feel like we have a window beyond this year. So now would be a good time to maybe reset and load up on draft picks for 2025. We still have Prescott under contract. We still have CeeDee Lamb under contract. So we got those core pieces. We know Jerry Jones is oddly cheap despite being super rich. I mean, a lot of billionaire owners like to be cheap at times, but like Jerry just spends money at weird places. He'll build an incredible stadium, but then he won't spend $1 in free agency. So maybe he decides we're not going to pay Micah anyway in the future. Plus, there have been rumors of Parsons and the organization not being a great personality fit, and they decide the season's already lost anyway. If someone wants to offer us something we can't say no to, say like 2 first-round draft picks and an early day 3 pick, maybe they decide, okay, we weren't thinking about this 2 weeks ago, but here we are. We're 3-5 on the year. Don't have Dak for the next month or so. We don't really envision Micah being a part of our long-term plan after paying Prescott and Lamb. So 2 first-rounders and a 4th, maybe that gets it done. Beyond Parsons, who is still a pipe dream, we're going to look at some other trade candidates and some more numbers like that in just a moment. But a quick shout-out to our sponsor, and that is Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One awesome feature about Game Time is they give you a bird's eye view of your seat. That way you don't purchase your ticket and then show up and sit behind a giant pole in, the nosebleeds. No, with Game Time, you know what you're getting. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Let's get back to the trade rumors out there because the NFL trade deadline is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, and it's, suffice to say, a day that should be busy in Atlanta because they desperately need some help at the pass rusher position. I sure hope that Terry Fontenot does not look at Sunday's 3-sack performance and decide, hey, that one game, that speaks more to our roster than the previous 8 weeks where we had 6 total sacks. Don't let one game completely cloud your judgment after an 8-week sample size told you you're the worst team in the NFL at getting after the quarterback. So, here are now 5 trade targets. We were going to talk about Baron Browning as a trade target today, and what do you know, the Arizona Cardinals kind of cucked me, and they traded for Browning right before we started filming, so just ignore Browning in this portion of the video. But it is kind of funny because I had Browning down as my number 3 in terms of preference for trade. So I want to kind of switch from who could the Falcons get to who do I want them to get, right? If I was the GM, I'd try and move heaven and earth to get Za'Darius Smith or Azeez Ojulari. But some things are not always, in the cards. So what is the likelihood of these 6 guys getting traded? It goes from Za'Darius Smith at number 1 of my preference to number 6 of likelihood. So don't get your hopes up on Smith or Ojulari. I just think they are going to cost too much for the Falcons, who don't have a 3rd or a 5th round draft pick to work with that could land one of those 2 players. But Emmnauel Ogbah and Calais Campbell, those guys are going to be much more affordable. But it's funny because I wanted to see the Falcons maybe pursue a Baron Browning trade. I thought he'd be available. And my trade idea was very close to what it cost the Arizona Cardinals to get Baron Browning. I was going to offer up a 7th and a 6th because Atlanta does not have a 6th-round draft pick this year. And what do you know? All it cost you was a 2025 6th-round draft pick. So I'm a little peeved at Fontenot for not working a little bit to try and get Browning, given all it cost you was a 6th-round draft pick for a guy who had 5.5 sacks in 10 games last year. If you find that type of production over the next 8 to 9 games, that would be, number 1 on the team for sacks. So With all that being said, you boil it all down. Of the 5 remaining names, my preference would be Azeez Ojulari. I think he's kind of in that sweet spot of he's affordable. Za'Darius Smith is definitely going to be the most sought after pass rusher at the trade deadline, and I think Ojulari will come in second place. So maybe you can work a deal where you give the Giants your 4th-round draft pick, and they give you Ojulari and like a 6th-round draft pick, so it's kind of like a 5th, which you don't have to offer. But to me, this makes a lot of sense for both sides. The Giants lost on Sunday. They are absolutely doomed. They are going nowhere. He's not even starting on that team. They've got Brian Burns on a long-term deal. They got Kayvon Thibodeau, a former first-round pick, who's coming towards the end of his contract, so he's going to want an extension soon. Ojulari on an expiring deal, who has played good football, would make a lot of sense for the Falcons, makes a lot of sense for the Giants. So let's get it done, Terry. Use that 4th-round draft pick, get Ojulari, maybe get a late day 3 draft pick to balance out the trade, and it's a win for all parties. He comes back home to the Peach State. The Giants get a pretty good 4th-round draft pick on a season that's going nowhere, and the Falcons get a much-needed pass rusher for a team that really, really needs one if they want to be legitimate candidates in the NFC in January and February. So would you trade for an edge rusher? On one hand, I can somewhat sympathize with Fontenot because he did trade for an edge rusher. He traded for Matthew Judon. He gave up a valuable 3rd-round draft pick. And now he's supposed to burn through the rest of his picks because the first trade didn't work out. I get that. But on the other hand, you've got an incredible window right now. You are in an NFC conference that doesn't really appear to have a juggernaut. I mean, it would be the Lions, but man, losing Aiden Hutchinson really feels like the door is creaked open a lot more for the rest of the NFC. The NFC East best team is the Commanders. I'm not going to buy in Jaden Daniels going all the way to the NFC Championship as a rookie. In the NFC West, the best team is the Cardinals, believe it or not, at 5-4. That seems like a team you could take care of business against. In the NFC North, like we said with the Lions, the Vikings are good, but when's the other shoe going to drop for Sam Darnold and the Vikings? It's already starting to. They've lost 2 out of their last 3, and Darnold turned it over 3 times against a Colts defense that is mid at best. So for me, I feel like the window is now for Atlanta. Use that 4th-round draft pick. Go get a pass rusher. Shore up this defense. Grady Jarrett left with an Achilles injury, and he's your number 2 pass rusher on this team. He leads the team in sacks. Forget number 2. He's number 1. He's got 3 sacks. That's the most on the team. Arnold Ebiketie only got a sack, no offense, because Dak Prescott held onto the ball for way too long, and that pocket collapsed. I mean, I get it. 3 sacks is nice, but I still feel like this team should be wanting more. Before we go, I just want to show some love to Caden Ellis. He's awesome. I mean, this is one of the most underrated Falcons free agent signings in the last, 15-ish years. Against the Cowboys, he led the team with 13 tackles, a sack, and 3 quarterback hits. He is doing it all. While Troy Anderson continues to miss time with a knee injury, Nate Landman doesn't really look 100% out there. Ellis is playing 2 positions at once. He has been dynamite this season. He's been available, which is the best availability. He's been productive. He's been fun to watch. And, I mean, he's a big reason why the Falcons were able to beat the Eagles. He applied the pressure to Jalen Hurts, who threw a bad pass, and Jesse Bates did the rest. So speaking of Jesse Bates, who is the best player on this defense after number 3? This season, you can make an argument for Grady Jarrett. A.J. Terrell's 2 picks, but he's been picked on in coverage one too many times. Caden Ellis has a really good case right now to be the number 2 defender on this team after number 3. So let me know in the comment section below. I'll be very interested to see what kind of responses we get on this question. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the coverage, make sure to like the video, subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.